You learn to take a piece of wood and respect the grain leading you in a certain way. And you don't try to analyze it. The minute you start analyzing creative process, you're lost. It is something you have to feed yourself. It's like better improving your diet over a period of years. Just continue to try to do better. Just be a better person to begin with. Never mind what we do for a living. That will take care of itself if we improve who we are. And that means other people matter. You get from them. You get from them. You don't take from them. You just get it from them.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Tom Skerritt is an actor. He sat down with me in cyberspace to talk about the work. I think you're the definition of a veteran actor, but you just put in a performance here in East of the Mountains. For you to be doing this caliber of work in this film right now at the age of 88, it excites me to no end. I want to start with this film. Talk to me about how you prepared for it and use that as a way to talk about kind of what I'm assuming has happened over these years, where a lot of stuff that you've done throughout the years, you've realized doesn't work anymore for you as in preparation or just in terms of the work that you left behind, and some stuff always worked and that you keep doing in terms of preparation or in terms of just getting yourself set for a role. And use this film, though, to talk to me about what some of those things are.
Well, I'm a little bit unorthodox in terms of that preparation thing. Other than preparation H, I really have never thought of the thing this way. I really have. I was an English major who felt that I'd love to write a screenplay, and then I saw Citizen Kane, and so I want to write and direct to that level. But I have to know what it feels like to do that. Now, I was at UCLA at the time, so I had access to doing a little bit of editing class, a little bit of this, that, the other thing. But writing, it seemed to me at that time, appealed. But each one of these things, the only way you get to know them is to feel it. You cannot teach creativity. It is something you have to impulsively pursue, and trust that it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, you've learned not to do that one again. So my preparation doesn't get much beyond that I really have what I've learned from as watching other actors and work. But I was learning to be an actor only because I needed to feel it or to write for it. That's how it started. Mm-hmm. And I happened to be seeing acting. Somebody hired me to be in a down in a movie with a couple of other wonderful actors from New York, Robert Redford and Sidney Pollack, when he was still acting. And that's their relationship. And my relationship began with that. And then I'm at a television director. And I'm just giving you the mountain of my preparation, because this is the preparation. This TV director had seen something. I guess he saw me in performance. He wanted me to do a little part in a TV show, which I did. And he kept using me, and I've kept mentoring with him. I just thought he's a very interesting guy, unorthodox. So I followed with him for a number of years. And one day he called and says, I got a film to direct, and I'd like you to be in it. And that was MASH. So I was mentoring with Robert Altman for a number of years. Yes. So that's my preparation for everything, was because it brought me into realizing it's the cast and crew and everybody else. You go out and you make each one of them feel like they're part of it. This is a unit we're working with. Yeah. It ain't about movie stars anymore. That's gone. Yeah. Studios having contracts for actors. That's a long time ago. Yeah. And I never really latched into that understanding that you have to coach yourself into situations for one. I could never do that. I was trying to write and I'm getting acting jobs with somebody like him. And I met a guy named Hal Ashby who, the same thing, yeah. He became a very dear friend. And I learned about the rhythms editing and realize that the films really are in the editing.
Yeah.
I may be very badly acting from my standpoint, and he would save me.
Yeah.
Or act. That happens often with films. You don't have the performance that you'd love to have, but a good editor is going to see the best stuff you have, and they can put it together. And it's always in the editing lab that you get all this stuff.
Yes.
When I finally got to is basically that you have to do less to get more. I keep going back to that less is more. So to try to act is not going to be engaging. You're going to be somebody acting. You're not going to see a person on film who's feeling something.
Yes.
And what is it that they're feeling? You want to know. You're drawn in. Why isn't he or she explaining herself? Why do I have to keep saying, who are you? What are you doing? What are you doing to yourself? You have to find out by, again, easing what you've been doing to yourself, which is what East of the Mountains was. Yeah. It was just simply all my life is into that character at 88. You bring your childhood, you bring everything into living a creative life. Otherwise, if you forget that you were a kid once that did stupid things, you fail to be a creative. I don't care what it is, because I paint as well, and I carve wood, and I find it's the canvas, or it's a piece of wood. It's going to tell me what to do. And I don't know. It doesn't precede what I do. It is what I've come to do because of everything else I've experienced. Right or wrong or bad or good, there is no such thing as that anymore at this age.
And what's the canvas for an actor? Like, do you look at it that way, like an empty canvas in a way, this character?
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way, but I think I just said it, didn't I? That you have a canvas, and it's going to lead you to that way. You don't why pick up, let me try a piece of, I put that black on that. I put black all over there, acrylic black. Seeing something in there, and I start with that, maybe just a little bit of blue. See how that blue works. How's that blue? What's that blue telling me?
But
a piece of wood is the same way.
Tom, but what are those paints though for you, like as an actor? Like, are those emotional things, memories? Like, what do you paint? What are you painting the character with?
It's what you said. It's something that is with us, and it's an intuitive impulse. The imagination informs frame of reference, which feeds the intelligence, which then drives your impulse and instincts and all of that. That's the process that we all have to understand. There is a track to intelligence. Being hugely smart about one thing is hugely smart about one thing. But ultimately, intelligence has a lot of information, and it's not always correct at you. But as you grow older, you learn to take a piece of wood and respect the grain leading you in a certain way. And you don't try to analyze it. The minute you start analyzing creative process, you're lost. It is something you have to feed yourself. It's like better improving your diet over a period of years. And just instinctively going for the right thing at the right time in life, which is really probably why I'm able to say anything I've just said at the age of 88. I'm very much there once I wake up in the morning, which takes a few hours. It's just the remarkable life of living a creative person is all I can say is that's the overall containment issue is build your house and they will come, and I see life very much that way. Just continue to try to do better. Just be a better person to begin with. Never mind what we do for a living. That will take care of itself if we improve who we are. And that means other people matter. You get from them. You get from them. You don't take from them. You just get it from them.
Let me tell you about my experience watching you in this film. I had this experience where I was, it's hard for me to explain. I was catching myself feeling the tiredness of you in this way that it was making me tired. It was this weird osmosis thing where when you finally laid down in the hotel room, I felt like I was laying down. Is there something that, and maybe you've already said it, the simplicity of kind of not overdoing it might have been part of the great thing that was happening with me with it. Because if you had overdone it, I may not have had that experience. It's almost like you were doing it on some kind of very simplistic, kind of very moderate level that was making me lean in or something like that.
That's ultimately, you're describing basically what I'm responsible to do as an actor is I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm just feeling what I'm feeling. And
yeah,
it's that less is more thing that I love to quote Laurence Olivier, who once was asked about theater acting. He says, somebody asked him, so how, when you're doing theater and a performance, how do you bring the audience to the point where they're going to cry? And he said, well, don't, and they'll cry for you.
yes,
It's that.
yes.
You just do the work. And if you know this character and I inhabit this character as I am, not as who I think I should be, and you make up an act, it's a character who does certain behavior. And this is just simply being who I am, knowing that surgeons and doctors in my neighborhood and that I have befriended over years, seeing how isolated they have come to be with their emotions so they can be in control of crisis as best as possible. How do you do that? You don't do anything.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that builds its own statue. That builds its own structure.
yes.
And when I get to that point in the motel where I'm at odds right now. I'm at the peak of this thing I'm going to do, whatever it is I'm going to do. I can't stand it. And the only way you can do it is do it or cry. And crying, I didn't realize I had not planned to do that. Mm-hmm. I just asked the director, just let us work. And the cinematographer, Sebastian Scanduzzi, who's a wonderful cinematographer, we always worked together to compose a shot and everything, and what's the lens, because I knew all this stuff. Yeah. I learned a long time ago about lenses and how to compare. I love painter, composition, all this. Yeah. So you work together like that. And I didn't plan that.
Yeah.
It just happens. It's organic. Even working 21 days on a movie every day.
Yeah.
You're just tired. And you can cry.
Yeah.
It's human.
Yes, right.
It has nothing to do with manhood.
Right.
At all.
Right.
It has to do with everything with just being a human being.
Yeah. I totally get what you're saying about less is more, but that also feels like that's something that must have come to you over time. You're talking about how you weren't even trying to be an actor. People were putting you in things, and suddenly you found yourself acting. There must have been a lot of trial and error about this kind of thing, right? For a while there.
Oh, yeah. I really watch people, everyday life, grocery store, drugstore, whatever it is, the mail office, and wherever I've been, people on a bus, when they're nodding off to sleep, just the presence of anyone in silence. And doctors that I know and see how they behave as doctors, So one way or another, when you play a doctor, you're playing all of them.
Yeah.
In some way, emotionally. So I'm not really conscious of making, other than what I came to know, was a lot of life is certainly better lived without excess. That other people matter, and don't overweigh your other people's problems with your problems. that their problems, whatever they may be, are just as important to them as they are to you. So stop making a blind and big deal about your own difficulties, which I've had in my life. And I'm writing a memoir, so I have to cover some of these things. I'm saying, oh man, did I behave like that? Jeez. So it's that behavioral pattern that we all have, the way we react to other people. Sometimes you got to listen to what somebody else is behind what they're saying. You have to really understand what they mean. And it's a lot of, so you just bring reality into acting.
Yeah. And
find out the better things that people will do is just listen to somebody else. And I know often when I'm working with I've been working with some fine actors and fine directors, particular directors, and to listen to what they say and know what they mean. And it was always that. I mean, picking up what Altman doing, we're making MASH, and at the time I spent with him, and Hal Ashby having a good time listening to music when he's cutting Harold and Maude, and all this wonderful stuff that I got from these guys. Yeah. And then Ridley Scott tossing me a little like a puppy, throwing me little biscuits of information about composition and lenses and depth and field and all of these. The composition of a whole thing is important. All 4 frames is important. So then you begin to place yourself accordingly in that, because we're just parts of a movie or pages in a book. Actors are. And I don't mean to be insulting any actors who think it's more than that. It is more than that, but that's to the audience that you're more of. I'm not trying to be a movie star in East of the Mountains. I'm just trying to fulfill what it would be like to be this doctor in this situation. No career left. He's burned that up. He was good. And those are the habits I built over 40 years. What do I do with this feeling every day that I no longer can utilize? My wife, we're going to go off to Alaska. She dies. My daughter is mad about something and she's upset. So I can't deal with that. But now I'm being told I have cancer, and if I don't do something, I'm going to die. So I'm 80, over 80, whatever it is. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, why would an 80-year-old man in this situation, having nothing really except his dog, all he's got is this information that if he doesn't do something, he's gone. You run away. So you got your dog, let's go running off there and do what I did when I was a kid. Reality is around us all the time. And that's the life that he's lived, and that's the life I've lived. And, you just go according to, if you stumble on the ground, you stumble. You don't try to fake it, you don't try to look good, you just look human. And that's all you can do.
Sometimes I think about actors that have worked with Altman, how they must have had a terrible time working with everyone else. But you were mentored by him and kind of formed by him in a way, the way you're talking here. So that must have been incredibly strange to be working with other people in the beginning in their way of working after Altman. Is that right?
It still is strange for me to work with him, because I learned, this is I'm talking about 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 years prior to MASH. Right after that thing I did with Bob Redford and Sidney Pollack, and Redford and I became friends. But it's things that Redford and I talked about being, how new people, and how fortunate we were to begin with, were other people who really want to be actors. Redford wanted to be a painter, an artist, basically, who went to an acting studio only to learn how to move so he could apply that when it's painting, and that visual work that he wanted to do on a canvas. How does this happen?
Yeah.
But so we came to it differently. We weren't dying to be Hollywood actors or stars on stage or whatever that stuff is. We wanted to be in a creative world. We know we had to do something creative. I was given This stuff was just placed in front of me as it was in front of Redford to do. From others seeing something in us that we were oblivious of, or that we did not think we were going to be able to apply. I'm shy and self-conscious. I did not want to get out in front of people and give a speech. So what do you do with that? You go at it, because it's not going to kill you or maim you. All you can do is learn.
Yeah.
And that really, ultimately, I'm still learning, man.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. And if you take that approach, you're going to keep working. And you got to keep moving. That's all I know. That my favorite thing is I'm titling this biography I'm building now and trying to write.
What's it called?
Keep on moving. Keep on moving.
Wait. So you're writing this biography. So you must be reliving a lot of things. And that's why I think that this question, I don't feel so bad asking this question then. But do you remember like the worst thing that a director ever did to you? And I would love you to, if you want to tell it, great. But if you don't, you just tell us how it affected you so that somebody listening will never do that to an actor. If they're a director listening. Well,
what comes to mind is when I was doing some television show, which I did quite a few of before Match. And I don't remember, there's a Western of some sort. And the director had been an editor. So he's got the script. And there are other directors that were like that, but this guy was never looked up. Say, okay, action. And I'm on the horse and I ride up and he's reading the script.
Oh, he's not even he's reading the script.
And I say the lines and he says, okay, did we get it? What you needed? Yeah. Okay, cut. Let's go. How can I keep a straight face with that?
That's amazing.
He never looked up to see the actor. He just read the script to make sure that he got the words out right.
Wow.
That was what's crazy.
That's
he
amazing.
cut apparently by the rhythms of the words, which I understand. Yeah. Rhythm has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But it also has to line up with the visual stuff of movement of the shoulders. And
right.
Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Whatever that is.
Yeah.
What thruster works best? Probably the right one, because I'm right. This is what I learned from Hal Ashby, was how to flip a film which was ordinarily, instead of right hand, he's using left hand and another thing, but somehow or another he was able to match it by flipping the film over. All this unique one, and he just kind of listened to music, and it was just wonderful to watch the variety and know what I was watching was brilliant, and know what I was watching was took a sense of humor. Okay, that one I don't need to know, except I'm going to never forget it. It's just so professionally outrageous to never look at the actor. You don't even know who the actor is.
Incredible. So
you're not even looking at the visual. You're looking at the words. That was extraordinary.
So that kind of like learning from Hal Ashby and editing and Altman, probably editing too, but all of it, right? I mean, this never went away for you, right? You're even with Ridley Scott, you were just saying, he was telling you about lenses. It's not just your interest, you're using that knowledge for your work as an actor.
We're working together. It's not for me to benefit as an actor as much as it is to give to the whole thing. A guy, even when we were doing Picket Fences, a series we did for 4 years on CBS, it was just with Kathy Baker, was an extraordinary experience with, it was
David E. Kelly,
exceptional.
First show, right?
Yeah. And there was the guy who had guided the roller, you put the camera mount on a, whatever you would call it.
The dolly.
Just slowly push it in. A dolly, yes. Hard one to remember. Anyway, he was so good at it. He just knew how to count the words the way they're coming in. Yeah. And he knew when the next words were going to come out, they would be moving up a little bit better. He did it all, and I just kept saying, this is the guy. Pay attention to this guy who pushes the dolly. He's dancing with this big, heavy device, pushing the camera in slow. And he just had this sensibility that no one paid him much attention to ordinarily, but it's what you pick up.
Yes.
It's what you feel, not analyze all this stuff. This is what really drives me nuts about. Well, why would you do that? I don't know. It was an impulse.
Yeah.
And I trust myself because I blundered in the past enough. You blunder enough, you start doing better. And that's largely what it's about. Keep on blundering.
Keep on blundering. Wait, that's your part 2 of your memoir.
That's the first part of it. That's volume 1.
Wait, speaking of the memoir.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm going to read it, but I want to read it also for another reason, and which I just came about just looking into you, preparing for this, which is, and tell me if I'm wrong, and this might be a really silly thing to say, you seem happy. You always seem happy. Is that true?
I'm 88 years old. Do I look sad because my life was so miserable? I've had some very difficult times in my life, near-death experiences. I married too young. I had a couple of kids. I had their mother exhibited paranoid schizophrenia, so I had to kind of tamp down my career right after MASH. I was doing MASH. I didn't know whether she would go into this psychotic state or not. So when I had time, I'd run home and make sure kids are fed and all that sort of thing. My whole life with a lot of films was running home immediately to make sure that everything was okay, stable at home, not knowing until I was there where the cookies were being baked or not, and it just, so you develop a form of post-traumatic stress. This is over a number of years till I could financially pull the kids away and divorce and try to raise them myself and have this career that was building all the time. So I had to tamp it down quite a bit. I didn't want to be that celebrity stuff because I'm just too shy for that. I don't have the personality for it. And, as such, I have looked at having taught storytelling at Posttraumatic vets coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan a number of years ago, and where I met David and had him suggest the idea of East of the Mountains. What I learned from them was that I had all the symptoms of post-traumatic stress: angry, self-loathing, all of this behavioral pattern that happens when you're off from the battle, which in my case was the intense 24/7 intensity of sanity, going on in my household, trying to do the best for my children. I didn't have any money to feed them or anything like this. All this stuff going on, not knowing what to do except to get through one day at a time. And I did. That's what I'm happy about, is that they're all alive.
Yeah.
They've all had gone through their psychological onslaught of release. So they're all physically healthy. And so am I, because I recognize my failings. I really think the secret of it all, of a successful life, is not only how we recover from failure, but we embrace it. It's bringing all of this stuff and going through up and down, and still continuing to get up and fight. If you're a boxer, just fight until you can't fight anymore. Whatever it is emotionally. And it's Bill Gates once said, the biggest error in my life is that I haven't made enough mistakes.
Wow. And
it's not a direct quote, but I understand that one. Because simple. It's very simple. when you have something to overcome and it's not going to kill your menu, go for it. All you can do is win or lose. And either way, what you get out of it is you've learned. I think that's really it.
Tom Skerritt, this has been a real pleasure. I thank you so much.
Oh, God, it's my genuine pleasure to meet you and spend some time with you. And thank you for giving me the time.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.